It's time for NuWho Review with your host, Farrar Hutkins, and guests, Lewis Nauman and Alex Cannon. Welcome to episode 2 of NuWho Review. Today we are talking about Journey to the Center of the Dalek. Fantastic Voyage. No, wait, Inner Space. No, wait, Doctor Who Into Darkness. Yeah. Oh, wait, what's this one called?
As long as it's not Journey to the Center of the TARDIS, I really hated that episode. Sorry.
Into the Dalek. Hi, I'm Farrar. I'm here with Lewis and our new member of the crew, Alex Cannon.
Hi.
She is a fan of NuWho, and we are fans of old and NuWho, so it'll be nice to get a different perspective here.
Where are we going?
Into darkness. Well, we're only 2 episodes into Capaldi's tenure, but it seems like we've already got a change from the previous episode. This one was co-written by Stephen Moffat and Phil Ford, and considering that this is Phil Ford's first script for Doctor Who since Waters of Mars, I'm really impressed because I hated Waters of Mars.
Me too.
It's pretty damn good compared to that episode, and actually I think overall it was a pretty good episode. I'd say maybe 7 or 8 out of 10.
Well, I found it entertaining. Bit throwaway, but they seem to have something new to say about the Daleks, so that's always good. Kind of a budget episode.
They did have the Star Wars-like beginning.
Yeah, beautiful.
With the ship flying away from danger. The only thing that I didn't like about the opening was the lack of context. I couldn't tell whether the fight that Journey was in was part of like a broader human-Dalek conflict.
Yeah, well, they insinuated that. I watched it again, and they said something about a galactic coalition that apparently was put together. You know, the insinuation would be to try to combat the Daleks.
Wow.
Yeah.
How quickly was that explained? Because I didn't
It was
really...
one line.
It was one line?
Yes.
Okay.
So you blink and you miss it.
We've really got to pay attention to these new episodes then, I guess.
I felt we've already done the Dalek, where there's a good Dalek versus the evil with, I can't remember which episode it was with Nine's Doctor.
Yeah.
Dalek.
Is it Dalek?
Episode 5, yeah.
And I've only ever seen that one like once or twice because it's such an impact episode to me that it's scary and it explains so much of him as the War Doctor and all that I like it, but I don't like it. And this reminded me a lot of that episode. I'm like, we've already done this and it was done better. So that's kind of why I didn't like, I really didn't like episode 2.
Yeah.
I definitely felt a callback to that episode.
I felt like this was a sequel to that episode.
I thought they were going to do more with it, and they could have gone so much more with it with a good Dalek, and they didn't. They didn't go. You know, they just didn't. They just kind of went. They went, and then they just kind of stopped.
Yeah.
And it was like, really, that's all we're going to do. We're inside a Dalek, and this is all we're going to do.
Yeah. They.
So I kind of. I mean, I only saw the episode once, so if I had been able to rewatch it, I may have seen more things that I could like about it. But just going by that, it just reminded me of that episode with Nine, and Nine just did such a better job.
Like it started out being an emotional journey, but instead they decided to throw a lot of cool visuals at us,
right?
Of inside the machine,
right? And then make puns, and you know.
Not only that though, they end up concluding that the only good Dalek is a dead Dalek, and there's no such thing as a good Dalek because it was in just damaged goods, and it's not capable of being good unless it's broken. It's like they're designed to be evil. I mean, that's the takeaway I got from this, that they basically have some kind of an emotional limiter on them that prevents them from seeing anything resembling beauty or goodness or anything like that.
They cribbed that idea, though, of the emotional inhibitor from the Cybermen.
You're right. That's a lot like the Cybermen, isn't it?
Because in that episode, and I can't remember which one it was, where we saw humans being abducted from London and turned into Cybermen, part of the process was having certain emotions and feelings inhibited.
Yeah.
And that it was a mechanical process, that they strapped this thing into your circuitry, and then you lost all compassion. And
I'd always understood it that Davros had genetically bred out goodness
until this episode.
Yeah. So
they decided to rewrite that bit of Dalek engineering.
Yeah.
But then they also bring in the fact with Asylum of Daleks, when you have Claire's copy turn into a Dalek, you know, she doesn't remember she thinks she's human,
right.
And she forces. That's another thing. I mean, is she technically broken? Because she,
I don't know.
But it's a human becoming a Dalek, and they don't really explain, because we never knew that humans could become Daleks until that episode, and they slowly start bringing, like, is it the nesting? Is that the doll? You know, the people that can turn into Daleks. Is that duplicates or whatever they call them.
Yeah, duplicates.
Yeah,
I
they called
wonder.
them duplicates. There was a slight callback to that in this episode when the Doctor showed up on board the Aristotle and they said he could be a duplicate.
Right.
And
Yeah.
that's as far as they went with that.
But I mean, by introducing humans into becoming a Dalek, you could technically have a good Dalek. So I don't think they really thought that through because even though they're bred, the true sense is they're bred to be evil, but if
Didn't they
they're-
go over that in Daleks in Manhattan when they
Yeah.
had Dalek human hybrids and there were good, well, maybe not.
God, that was
maybe
just
not.
awful.
I don't
though,
remember
wasn't
that
it?
episode
That
very
was
well. I
so
didn't like it.
Awful.
I think I struck it from the canon in my mind, but if we
Yeah.
if we really do want to refer back to it, I think we can because there were human Dalek hybrids, so that again brings up the question of what emotions do they have?
Yeah.
And have we done this before? I think we talked about the bookend between this and the previous episode, which was just called Dalek. In that episode, the Dalek told Dr. Number 9, you would make a good Dalek. And now the Dalek told Dr. Number 12, you are a good Dalek.
Yeah.
Dalek, yeah.
Was that just a reference, or was that actually, are we retconning a story arc here?
God, I don't know. I mean, the way I saw it was that the Dalek was speaking to the Doctor as he had just been inside the Dalek's shell, seen what the Dalek sees. I guess in the Dalek's mind that would make him a Dalek.
The Dalek also saw into his mind.
Yes.
They kind of mind melded, to borrow a Star Trek term.
Yeah.
Speaking of Star Trek, I thought about that episode of The Next Generation
Well,
where
this is a bit borrowed, isn't it?
they
I
had
mean,
that Borg that was separated from the collective,
Right.
and they gave it an identity, and they
Hugh.
Hugh.
And they sent Hugh back to the collective,
And-
and he kind of infected.
Right, they
them
sent him
with
back as
emotions.
So
a
is
sort of
this one
computer
gonna-
virus.
Yeah, so this is borrowing a bit from that, although I think this Dalek is much more on a destructive path.
Because it would be interesting to see what kind of influence that Dalek would have on the rest of the Daleks, because they aren't necessarily functioning as an autonomous collective like the
Well,
Borg
no,
did, but
we've
they
seen
did have kind
things
of a
like-
hive mind.
We've seen things like the cult of Skaro, though, where you had almost a religious sect within the Daleks. Other scenarios like Revelation of the Daleks, where there was a sect of Daleks that were faithful to the Emperor and a sect of them faithful to Davros.
Davros, right.
So that could start something like around this Dalek,
Okay.
very similar to those situations.
Then here we have it. It's been set up because we have the Daleks that are loyal to Davros, and then we're
Right.
going to have the other Daleks that are loyal to this Dalek.
Yes.
Because what if he gets himself elected emperor or whatever?
Or takes over his own ship.
The Dalek War would become the Dalek Civil
War, yeah.
That would be really cool.
Dalek mutants are born hating. This is what stokes the fire, extinguishes even the tiniest glimmer of kindness, compassion.
Here's one of the things that I really liked about the episode. The visuals I thought were really good. It was very old school, though. You shoot the camera at a low angle looking up at the Dalek when it's menacing and powerful, and from above looking down at the Dalek when it's vulnerable. The vulnerable Dalek is in like a blue room. Powerful Daleks are coming in, bursting in, and everything is brown and red and orange. So you've got the cold colors, the warm colors.
Yeah. Well, I thought the production values on the episode were fine. It's like they're
Yeah.
getting better and better. Like I said, it was kind of a budget episode. They had some beautiful looking sets at the beginning, but inside the Dalek was just kind of corridors.
Well, and apparently a lot
And
of
the memory banks, that really was kind of shabby.
Yeah, the memory banks were just...
Lighted panel? Oh,
yeah.
come on.
Apparently they did do a little bit of work using model
Okay.
Daleks for their explosions and stuff. It wasn't all CGI.
Okay, yeah. Well, the Dalek fighting scenes were great.
And I think that really helped lend some realism to the scenes.
Yeah.
There were some people online picking apart the scenes, doing frame grabs and talking about how they were using commercially available Daleks. And
Really?
you can tell because this one was out of scale and there was a production run where the bottom half was 10% larger.
Maybe they were
than it was
using
supposed to be.
plastic models.
Yeah,
Off the shelf.
Yeah, they were repurposing
To blow up the Daleks.
commercially available Daleks. They used some of the
That's actually pretty cool.
some of the
I think it's
18-inch remote control Daleks. They wire them with explosives, and I actually think that's great.
That
No,
is
I think
great.
that's
I
awesome.
love that.
I mean, that's pretty cool. I like
'Cause
that.
It's inspirational. I mean,
It's-
somewhere out there, a kid is making a fan film, and he's going to do the exact same thing.
This kind of reminded me of the way visually the Matrix was approached, because the Matrix there was all about visions and reflections, and this one. There were eyes everywhere. They went into the Dalek through the eye stalk. The antibodies looked like eyes. Clara's wearing a shirt
Yeah, I was trying
with
to figure that
eyes
out.
all over
It was
it.
eyes. Okay.
Interesting.
So they're
Yeah.
trying to say eye into the soul.
I don't know. I think maybe it was, the Dalek and the Doctor were eventually looking eye to eye.
Yeah.
And they were recognizing parts of each other. the hate and the beauty. And I kind of think, was there like an overall theme of looking in there?
Yeah, the eyes, the windows to the soul. That makes sense.
I don't know. That was just something that I picked up on the second viewing of it, actually, when I actually figured out what the hell was on Clara's shirt.
I was looking at it, I was like, what's
It took me a while.
on her shirt?
Yeah.
I was like, he's a character. I couldn't figure out what it
Interesting.
was.
So
Yeah.
those were eyes, huh?
Yeah.
Wow.
I'm sure the Illuminati theorist will be all over that. Visually, I thought it was great. The music was good. I didn't think the music was really dramatic and over the top like it had been sometimes during the previous two Doctors' tenure.
Yeah, it was getting a bit repetitious.
Sometimes the music would just get so obvious. You know, it's called
Yeah.
an underscore for a reason.
Yeah, when it's cranked up over the speech, it's a little overbearing.
Well, over the speech and over the effects sometimes.
Yeah.
it
The music
was,
in general just kind of, it keeps reminding me of like Disney, like a Disney musical. Like it just seems, I don't mean this episode, but just in general, it just seems like there was one episode with Clara and the leaf that she was like, he was tracking her family. I forget which
Okay.
episode that was.
Yeah.
But it was just the music, like it just seemed like, what is this, like a Disney princess? It was just like the music that was following. It just seemed very.
You know what? I think probably they told the composer, Murray Gold, if there's no speech in a scene, fill it up with music, unless we tell you otherwise.
I never really noticed the music that much until this, I guess, the seasons with Clara.
Yeah.
It's the Alan Silvestri approach, you know, where they take a film like Back to the Future, which has, you know, it has the feel of a giant Hollywood blockbuster. But if you look at it,
It's mostly the
it was
music.
done on a budget. They
Yeah.
had very few sets. They ended up reusing a lot of stuff. And when there's no dialogue on the screen, it's all music. And Alan Silvestri made it feel huge.
Yeah.
And a lot of composers have kind of taken that cue, and directors have said exactly what you said.
Yeah, fill
Fill
it
it
up.
with music.
So good. I mean, kudos to Murray Gold for being able to find something new to say this season in Who, because I thought he was running out of ideas.
How did I get here?
I materialized the time capsule exactly around you and saved your life 1 second before your ship exploded, but do please keep crying.
My brother just died.
His sister didn't. You're very welcome. Put the gun down.
There is one thing that I did notice carried over from pretty much all the previous Doctors is that he still wants to make people better. In that opening scene with Journey, where he tells her to ask him, you know, where he says, not like that, get it right. He's basically trying to teach her to be polite.
Well, he's still the doctor.
Yeah,
you
he's
know.
still the doctor. He does it in a very alien kind of way.
Yeah.
You know, cocking his head,
Yeah.
looking down at her.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of, in his character, there's a lot of Dr. 6 and perhaps 1, you know, where he's got that really stern, authoritative, bristling, cold kind of approach.
I think he does try to make people better. With this one, I couldn't tell if it was really he was trying to make her better or if he was just pissed off that she pointed a gun at him.
Yeah.
That
So-
could also be true.
Yeah.
So, because that's what I got was that, no, don't point your gun at me. You know, you're in my ship. I just saved you, and you're going to respond with pointing your gun at me.
It was a bit of a power play.
Because
Yeah.
I think, Smith would have done it with humor. 10 would have done it with charm. 9 may have done it the same way
Yeah.
that
he is a
Doctor
bit
did
like
it.
9.
Yeah.
Yeah, that line about you'd starve to death trying to find the light switch could have been Christopher Eccleston, couldn't it?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
The thing to remember about Capaldi is that he grew up watching mostly Doctors 3 and 4. I think that's going to be deep in his psyche when he's playing the Doctor.
I think that's why he visually is consciously trying to be a little less human.
Yeah.
You know, the way he kind of walks leaning forward as opposed to, you know, like standing straight up like a human would. The way he kind of looks askance at people as if he's observing something, like a scientist looking at something that he's trying to scrutinize. And I think that could backfire because it might mean that fans of the new series are not going to like him as much. He is not going to be charming except by accident.
Maybe that's what we need.
Someone who's not trying to be loved but is
Yes.
loved anyway.
Right. Because that's the whole point of Doctor Who. It can be anybody.
Yeah.
And you can have old, you can have young. And I've seen so many stuff of people written and goes, oh, I miss my pretty doctors. I was like, we've only technically had 2 pretty doctors. And I don't even think Matt Smith was that pretty. You know, even though 10 is my doctor, which when I wasn't even a fan of Doctor Who and I saw a picture of him, I'm like, the first thing I said was, who's that dork? Like, because the glasses and the hair. And then I actually fell in love with him. And I was like, okay, I take that back. But
Right.
but yeah, I think that's what we kind of need. I mean, I'm glad that everybody loves Doctor Who and it's getting so popular and everything. But this is this is the roots of it, is that it can be anybody.
Right.
And it can be old, it can be young, it can be dark. And you know, that just means that if we do lose some of the new fans, then so be it. And it just means the hardcore fans will stay with it.
I guess the thing I'm mostly concerned about is that they allow him to still be the Doctor. You know, they can't pull his character too far away from the center. And they can throw in things like self-doubt, but he's always got to return back to being the hero. And I hope that they let him. I hope they don't carry on with this whole questioning himself thing until we're all completely sick of it. It's not him.
Victory is yours, but it does not please you.
You looked inside me and you saw hatred. That's not victory.
Is Capaldi's Doctor tired of war? Is that why he avoids the conflict directly and instead decides to take Journey back to her ship and tries not to get involved with the Dalek in the first place?
Ooh.
And then later on, there's that weird, I don't want a soldier in the TARDIS
Yeah,
thing.
what was that all about?
That had to do with guns.
I'm
didn't
not
it?
sure.
I can't tell. I can't tell where he's going.
The Doctor's
meaning
past
Stephen
would
Moffat.
seem to turn that into a lie because
Yeah.
the Doctor had a very close relationship with the Brigadier and unit. There's also Kate Stewart.
Right.
There's also the fact that he was a soldier multiple times.
He might have been saying that in retaliation for the way he was treated by the forces at the beginning of the episode, or he might have been saying that to avoid having somebody in his TARDIS that would question his own orders.
Or not question them.
Or not question them, right.
Because
right.
a soldier is going to follow orders no matter what.
Perhaps.
And he needs somebody to be his moral compass, and that's why
Perhaps.
Clara's there.
Or perhaps he didn't want somebody who was under somebody else's command and he couldn't tell them what to do. There's so many different possibilities. It's so ambiguous. I don't know where Moffat is going with this, but it better have a good reason.
I hope he knows. I think Moffat knows.
Was it you that I saw outside doing the soldiery thing?
Oh, yeah, probably the Coal Hill Cadets. Just a bit of fun.
What, teaching them how to shoot people?
There's a bit more to modern soldiering than just shooting people. I like to think there's a moral dimension.
Ah, you shoot people and then you cry about it afterwards.
Oh,
Something wrong?
nothing.
Shall we talk about Danny Pink?
Yeah.
I liked him. I thought he was funny.
I think it's cool to see Clara actually getting a life outside of the TARDIS.
I thought his character was introduced in a really fun way. The cutting back and forth between what he knows he should have said and what he actually said when
For
she
the
asked him
date?
out.
Yeah.
That was
I thought
great.
that was so cute.
Because
And then,
that was internal monologue
Yeah.
that everybody knows, everybody beyond a certain age knows exactly what that feels like. But we actually saw it on screen and it was played to great effect. I thought it was funny, but it was also, oh yeah, you know.
And I have to admit, I really like the intrigue about his background. Where did he come from? Is he a unit soldier who retired?
Oh, that
did he
would be
see
cool.
something that he really didn't want to see? Did he have to do something in one of the unit invasions that he was participating in, maybe? I don't know.
I only wish he had turned away before crying in front of his class.
Yeah, not very English.
I think it's also showing young because he looks like he's like a young teacher.
I thought apart from the whole tearing up, I thought his introduction was flawless. They didn't give us too much about his character. We're all sitting around talking about him.
Yeah.
And we were wondering where it's going to go from here.
Well, it's obvious he's probably going to end up in the TARDIS at some point.
Which
would be
that could
interesting.
be a leeway to the whole you're a soldier question.
Yes.
Which what you
I
brought
think
up
that's
later.
where they were
Yeah.
going with
Yeah,
that.
because you're a soldier, and then but maybe he'll allow this because well you're not.
You were a soldier, so was the Doctor, but they both made a conscious choice not to do that anymore.
Right, which is why they probably showed the tear. Which I understand where you're coming from. Like you didn't want the students to see it, but actually being a school teacher, there's some like you can't control. Like when kids ask you something, you think they're not going to ask you, and you're like, oh crap, what do I say? You know, and so it was, and I like that because it was an honest reaction because
Yeah.
you don't know what kids are going to ask you in a classroom. They get really personal, and you have no clue what's going to come out of their mouth. It had nothing to do with any questions. And then some teachers are really great and they can just flip it around and just be like, okay, that's not what I asked you, or be funny and flip it.
And if he's got any kind of like PTSD, then he could also have problems with emotions surfacing when he doesn't quite want them to.
Right. That's
Yeah,
kind of
he
what I felt it
certainly
was.
seems to.
Because, I mean, I liked the crying because it made me like, oh, what happened? I wanted to know. And I thought, and he was only on screen, for like a total of 5-10 minutes?
To make matters even better, he makes Clara more of a three-dimensional character, too.
Right.
That's the best you could hope for.
It gives
She
her
really
a
needed it.
direction to grow in,
Yeah.
which we've all been waiting for. I have to mention a minor quibble, and that was the big farewell speech of the soldier we barely knew. A really peripheral character.
Gretchen Allison Carlyle,
Do something good and name it after me.
She was one of the foot soldiers who went in to make sure that the doctor wasn't going to sabotage them. I felt that we had gone back into Tennant and Smith territory where the emotion was being forced upon us as the audience. That we were being told to care about somebody we don't know because it's a good idea now.
You know, when you've got only so many minutes to tell a story, you've got to invest the audience in whether these characters live or die. I mean, look at like Earthshock, where you've got soldiers being wiped out left and right.
But if we were invested in whether they lived or died, that should have been Journey.
Right.
Because we saw her from the very beginning. She interacted with the doctor. We got some great insight into her character with her brother and her attitude and the way she handled herself and the way she behaved. And at the very end, she was taken up by Missy, whoever or whatever that is. So we know that she survives. I would be much more interested in seeing what became of Journey than what became of Gretchen.
Yeah, although the whole Missy thing,
Is that heaven? Is that, I mean, what is that?
I don't know.
I don't know.
Don't
Theories?
really care.
Anyone?
Well, there's some weird theories floating about.
Yeah, there are an
like,
awful lot of
Yeah.
people out there who are just like, I don't care.
Yeah.
Well, okay, so how many, I haven't read theories on Missy because I don't really know if I like her or hate her yet, but do people think she's River? Do people think she's the nun?
I'll tell you what
from
the front runner is. The
sister
front
ship
runner
thing?
theory is that she is the TARDIS and that she is actually collecting these patterns of people who have died, protecting or saving the Doctor.
I think my favorite theory so far is that the ring that the Master was wearing when he was being burned
Right.
was taken by his wife or somebody. Somebody
Or
with
somebody
red
in his order?
somebody with red nails.
Right.
Because that's all we saw.
Right, it was a female hand.
It was a female hand with
But-
red nails, and now we have a female master. Missy could be shorthand for mistress, which is the female version of master.
Very possible.
That would be cool.
Oh, God, something else just occurred to me, and this is not canonical, but in one of the books, it's insinuated that a Time Lord will change gender on regeneration if they kill themselves. And didn't the Master sort of make that
He
decision?
sort of killed himself. Yeah.
So, wow.
Ooh.
Okay, interesting.
Suddenly, I kind of want to know what's going on with Missy. Whereas when I saw her in this episode, I was just kind of like, oh, get off my screen
Yeah.
already.
Throw away.
Yeah, I was like, oh,
Get out
really?
of
You were
it.
going with that again?
Mercifully, that whole scene was what, about 12 seconds?
Yeah.
What, her and Gretchen?
Yeah, with her and Gretchen and the tea. If Missy is going to come back, they had to throw her in the second episode because if she only appears once, it doesn't establish a pattern.
Right.
Now that she's been there twice, personally, I'm
Yeah, and
hoping
if they
we don't...
belabor this on every episode, then,
Exactly.
Yeah, anybody
Personally,
would
I'm hoping
notice.
we don't see her again until her story appears.
I
I don't
think you're going to be unhappy, but
I
very
know.
disappointed by that.
It's going to be
It's
River
Moffat.
Song. It's going to be
Moffat.
River Song all over again.
Yep.
She's going to keep popping up, and I'm going to go, oh, God, again?
Hello. I'm Missy. Welcome to heaven. Would you like some tea?
This is Gun Girl. She's got a gun and she's a girl. This is a sort of boss one. Are you the same one as before?
Yes.
I think he's probably her uncle, but they made that up to pass the time while they were talking. This is Clara, not my assistant. She's some other word.
I'm Miss Kara.
Yeah, my carer. She can, so I don't have to.
One of the things that I like about Capaldi is that he's obviously alien.
Yeah.
No doubt anymore. After the first episode, I kind of had my doubts, but now he is most definitely alien. Tennant was getting very, very human. Smith was getting really human. He was practically 100% human.
Yeah.
No, he is an alien. He is 2,000 years old. He does travel through space and time. He has seen civilizations born and die, and he knows what time and the universe are all about. He sees the big picture.
this also might be an opportunity to let him humanize himself a little bit. Start off really cold and calculating and then warming up a little bit. By the end of the season, he might be a halfway different man.
I thought that was one of the things that made this episode great. The little things, like his delivery of lines, like when she said, "My brother's dead," and he said, "His sister isn't." He,
Oh, yeah, I like
he
that.
didn't look her in the eye, and we didn't have a nice soft close-up with the Murray Gold music, and he softened and smiled and said, "His sister isn't." He said it just completely matter of fact.
You know,
That's what I like about him, is because he sees the big picture. The Doctor knows that a handful of humans will die in a single event, but meantime, over the course of his life, he has saved uncounted billions.
Yeah.
And it's not on him to explain that. He's just going to do what he does.
Capaldi is getting very good at tossing off cutting lines under his breath, too.
Yeah.
That seems to be a hallmark.
I think I mentioned this the last time we talked. One of the audio adventures with the Fourth Doctor and Romana, where he's just saved a couple of people, and they come running up to him, and they go, Doctor, you saved our lives. And he goes, he kind of goes, oh, well, always do what you're best at. That's what I say. Now about this thing. I mean, he just moves right on with it because he's the Doctor. That's what he does.
Yeah.
He's learned over the years that this is what he's good at. He's good at interfering in history on behalf of what needs to be done.
That's also a very Fourth Doctor thing to say.
Well, and no one else could deliver the line like that. And that's kind of the reason why I like Capaldi, is because of the way he is delivering these lines.
Yeah.
He is making it such that you can't really see anybody else delivering those lines quite the way he did. I think the way Capaldi delivers the material makes it seem a little more alien and a little more Time Lord. But it's the way he says them, I think.
Yeah, he definitely seems more standoffish and more colder, which I like that. I like where they're going with this.
Well, let's see if they end up like that.
Is he leaving? Isn't he going to say goodbye?
I think that was it. Yep, that was it. Sorry. Gotta run.
Okay, well, so the vote is basically the episode was pretty good. Capaldi is very good, and hopefully things get better, and hopefully we get a decent resolution with Missy.
Any speculations for Robot of Sherwood, which is a Mark Gatiss episode, by the way, so we can't expect a whole lot of science.
I just kind of expect it's going to be a campy, fun episode.
I'm actually looking forward to seeing another callback, perhaps to the Tom Baker episode, Androids of Tara. Was set in a semi-medieval society that happened to have android technology, and they were using androids to basically take over the court. Very campy episode. It was ripped off of, I think, Prisoner of Zenda, and it was fun, but it was pretty airheaded fun. This looks similarly light and fluffy, so...
I kind of want that. I want cheesy.
Oh, yeah,
cheesy,
that's
campy,
a great tradition in Doctor Who. We got to have some of that.
Seeing the preview, it kind of reminded me of the Shakespeare episode.
Yeah,
with
Shakespeare
Martha.
Code.
Yeah, and
a little more light action.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so I was, because we don't really get like an outdoor scene like with Doctor Who. It's mostly spaceships and the city. You don't get like go back in time like we do a lot of, which it's fine because it's a spaceship.
It's some of my favorite episodes, like the Time Warrior, for instance. A lot of location shooting in rural England.
And it seems like a lot of the time when we are outdoors, it's at night.
Which makes sense, but
it makes
for
sense.
filming reasons and whatnot.
For filming reasons, and also because for a while it looked like the series was trying to get a little darker in tone, so they were trying to reflect that visually. But I agree. I mean, the show, when it takes itself too seriously, the show does itself a disservice, I think. It has a huge audience, a very diverse audience, and it's an audience that appreciates humor. The Doctor Who audience has always appreciated humor.
Yeah, you can have an entire episode that's really kind of a flimsy joke type of episode, and really get away with it, whereas a lot of these science fiction franchises, you can't get away with that on a Star Wars series, or Battlestar could never go there.
Doctor Who bringing back the comedy, I think, would be a good thing.
Looking forward to it.
Well, we will see you next week. Thanks again to Lewis and Alex for joining me.
All right, thank you.
Thanks.
NuWho Review was produced and hosted by Farrar Hutkins. The guests were Lewis Dobbin and Alex Cannon. The opening theme music was performed by Lewis Dobbin, and music performed by the Consortium of Genius. Email your questions or comments to whovoreview@gmail.com.
Anybody want to think about how long the Doctor was in the closet holding the coffee? I think that would be kind of funny if multiple people happened to come in there. You're not Clara. Oh, sorry.
That would be a nice blooper reel.